Hello everyone, my name's Miss Co and today I'm going to share with you one of my favourite poems from an author called Roald Dahl. This particular version is published by Random House in Roald Dahl's Songs and Verse, and the poem is illustrated by Axel Sheffler. The poem I'm going to share with you today is The Tortoise and the Hare. The tortoise long ago had learned, so far as eating was concerned, that nothing in the world could match old Mr. Roach's cabbage patch. Potatoes, lettuce, cabbage, peas could all be had with perfect ease, provided you had first checked out that Mr. Roach was not about. The tortoise had for very long enjoyed this lovely restaurant, but all at once, oh shame, disgrace, a ghastly thing was taking place. That horrid hare began to poach the sacred land of Mr. Roach. And worst of all, the hare got rid of far more than the tortoise did. With beans he'd eat up every one before the tortoise had begun. The carrots were all out of sight before poor Torty had one bite. The lettuce, succulent and green, was suddenly no longer seen. And so the tortoise now began to hatch a very subtle plan. He came across the hare at dawn, demolishing a row of corn, and said to him, "Would you agree to have a sporting bet with me? I don't believe I've ever met a hare who could refuse a bet." Hare said, "I must admit I play the horses almost every day." The tortoise said, "I'm betting you I'd win a race between us two." "You're round the twist," the hare cried out. "You're Bonkersville, you're up the spout. Why, I could run to Ecuador before you even crossed the floor. I'd run from here to Cowden Beath before you'd even brushed your teeth. I'd run to Poole and Beachy Head before you're hardly out of bed. Don't talk to me of how to run. A hare can outpace anyone." The tortoise said, "Although you're fast, I'm betting you'll come in last. And by the way, you might recall, pride always comes before a fall." The hare was so convulsed with scorn, he nearly choked upon his corn. He gagged and coughed, but when he spake, he cried, "You're on! So what's the stake?" The tortoise, after saying, "Well," produced from underneath his shell a pen, a contract, and a seal, and then began to read the deal. "If I do lose, I hereby swear that I will never more go near or take the tiniest of nibbles from Mr. Roach's vegetables." The hare considered for a while, then answered with a knowing smile, "That seems eminently fair," and signed it with a flourish, "Hare." The hare was later heard to say, quite loudly in a scornful way, "Well, Torty, when this race is run, when you have lost and I have won, I don't know where you'll go to dine, but that is no concern of mine." The tortoise now went on to call on Mr. Rat at evenfall, and found him in his workshop where the rat was trying to repair a fascinatingly bizarre, bright saffron yellow motor car. The rat was famous everywhere as being a brilliant engineer, but just like all the Ratty clan, he was a crafty businessman, and well nigh guaranteed to rob his customers on every job. "Hello, old rat," the tortoise cries, regarding him through scaly eyes. "I've come along tonight to ask about a highly secret task." Rat, slowly putting down his spanner, assumed a sympathetic manner. "My dear old Torty," he declared, "now, if you want your car repaired—" "No, no," the tortoise cried, "you're wrong. Now here's the burden of my song." He then explained with skill and flair the details of his bet with Hare. The rat said, "Ho, I do believe there's something fishy up your sleeve. It's obvious if the race was fair, you'd have no chance against that hare. In fact, however much you cheat, you'll never, never, never beat that speedy hare. You are a dope to think that you have the slightest hope." The tortoise said, "There is, old rat, more ways than one to skin a cat." Rat cried, "Be sensible, old man. Look, even if I were to ram a red-hot poker up your blaster, you wouldn't travel any faster." "Hold it," the tortoise cries, "my wheeze, and listen carefully if you please. My brilliant, wonderful idea is that you build for me right here a little four-wheeled motor car that travels fast and very far, which you can screw beneath my shell in such a way no man can tell, not even bright-eyed Mr. Hare, that I've got anything down there. I'll wave my legs and off I'll go, and Mr. Hare will never know what's giving me this wondrous power to run at 60 miles an hour. Oh, Rat, I know you'll do it right. The little wheel's just out of sight, the engine tucked away as well, and all hidden underneath my shell. The Rat was stunned. He stretched his eyes. He stood and shouted with surprise. By gum, I never would have guessed an ancient bird like you possess such genius in your upper story. This has to be your path to glory. I'll do the job this very night, provided that the price is right. How much? How much? The Tortoise cried. That all depends, the Rat replied. Which motor you require on board, a Rolls, a Bentley, or a Ford? The fastest one, the Tortoise said. I want a racing thoroughbred. The deal was struck, arrangement made, and willingly the Tortoise paid. As soon as Rat was all alone, he tiptoed to the telephone and asked to speak to Mr. Hare, and said, Hello, it's Ratty here. The Hare said, Hello, Rat, what's new? And how are things tonight with you? The Rat answered, Would you pay a lot to hear about an evil plot? Would you, for instance, give your shirt to know who's going to do you dirt? There was a silence on the line. Then Hare cried, Who's the rotten swine? Come on now, Ratty, tell me true. You know I'd do the same for you. The Rat said, very soft and sly, No, go, old man. Goodbye, goodbye. Wait, wait, cried Hare, don't go away. How much do you want? I'll pay. So once more Ratty made a very advantageous trade, and after he had got his fee, he told of Torty's villainy. The Hare jumped up and down and cried, That's cheating! He's disqualified. The Rat, with nauseating joy, said, Hate to tell you this, old boy. Your contract simply says you race, the two of you, from place to place. It doesn't ban the clever use of engines giving extra juice. I'm cooked, the Hare yelled out. I'm done. I'll lose my favourite restaurant. The Rat said, slimier than ever, Are you forgetting? Rats are clever. I'm sure arrangements could be made, provided extra cash is paid. I could, for instance, guarantee, in token of this extra fee, that irrespective of how fast the Tortoise goes, he won't be last. I'll see that all his tyres go flat. I'll guarantee it, said the Rat. How much, the other cried. An awful lot, the Rat replied. The Hare now paid a second bill. Dirty Rat got richer still. This thrilling epoch-making race was by agreement taking place along the road beneath the hill to finish by the barley mill. The Rat, meanwhile, had tipped a load of spiky nails across the road, then hid himself, when that was done, behind the hedge to see the fun. Spectators all along the way had come to watch and shout hooray. The field mice, weasels, hedgehogs, stoats, and rabbits in their fairy coats all lined the route and waved their flags, and picnicked out of paper bags. An ancient fox who ran the show yelled out, Get ready, steady, go! Now Torty gunned his great machine, and off he went in clouds of steam, and soon, because of all that power, was doing 50 miles an hour. Each time he had to change a gear, black smoke came belching from his rear. Each time he had to use the brake, his shell began to creak and shake. But oh, it was a wondrous thing to see a tortoise on the wing. I'm going to win with lengths to spare, the Tortoise yelled to Mr. Hare. Oh no, you're not, the Hare replied, for I've got Ratty on my side. And just a moment after that, all four of Torty's tyres went flat. He had to stop, he had no choice, and Hare in an exultant voice cried out, Well, that's the end of you. Stand back, I'm coming through. The Hare that forgot that just ahead lay all the nails that Rat had spread. The spiky things were everywhere, and silly, foolish Mr. Hare had spikes in every foot and toe. He couldn't run, he couldn't go. He shouted, I can run no more. We'll have to call this race a draw. The tortoise said, all tires flat. He said, well, I agree to that. Meanwhile, the dirty Mr. Rat went home and counted all his pay. He'd had a profitable day. So just remember, if you can, don't tangle with a businessman. It doesn't matter who you choose. They always win, we always lose. If you were here and I were there, if you were tortoise, I was hare, we'd both get diddled in the end by people like our ratty friend. I hope you've enjoyed my poem.